There is no stopping this tide. The fate of this world now rests in the hands of the one who finds it. With that classic One Piece, dum, the person who lays claim to the One Piece. I personally think at the end of chapter 1121 is one of the most important panels and one of the best panels that we have gotten in the entire post-time skip of One Piece. When you see Shanks, when you see Luffy, when you see Blackbeard, Buggy, Akainu Dragon, a mystery person, Imu, Sabo, Kuzan, Figureland Garling, and finally Flame Emperor Sabo. When we see all these figures, what I believe Oda is doing here is telling us, the readers, who are going to be the most important people in the story moving forward for the final saga. These are the major players. And this harkens back to an interview that Oda had with the author of Detective Conan, explaining how, in his mind, the last thing in the story that was going to be super important was going to be the One Piece treasure. Now, it is somewhat contrary to the words of Whitebeard when he kind of stated that there would be a war after the treasure is found. However, given potentially some mistranslations between Japanese and English and Oda's current mode of thought, it seems like, I'd argue, the final war happens on the way to get the One Piece treasure in some capacity. Because when you find it, that's when you have the power to literally click the button and then potentially change the structure of the world itself. Maybe it involves actually raising the land masses back to the surface in some way. Maybe it involves Vegapunk's actual dream, giving people free and abundant, ever-existing energy, and then so in doing so, things like poverty, hunger, drought, a lot of the ailments that plague the world can slowly but steadily be washed away. So there are various possibilities on what the One Piece could be, and in the future, I will do a video on that, because as of late, I have been pretty slow to content on this channel. I apologize. Various things such as other work, health issues, I've been going through a lot, but I'm still here, still kicking, so we have to get on board here with some of the content at large, and this panel has been on my mind for a minute now. So I need to tackle a few of the characters here, why they're so important. There are some tricky ones here, particularly I would say it's Kuzan. I think that Kuzan is the most tricky of the entire lot, but also the mystery person underneath Dragon next to Akainu. What's going on there? So first and foremost, let's talk about the most important players for the final saga of the story of One Piece. Buggy, Blackbeard, Luffy, Shanks. These are the four most important people moving forward in the story. There is no two cents about it, because when it comes to finding the One Piece treasure, these four individuals are in the forefront of that race. They are the lead dogs. They have the best sprint time. They are the Usain Bolts and Michael Phelps of the Olympics. There is nobody better than them at this point in time. That's how good they are. And everybody else has to try and catch up to get to them, and they're going to fail. But let me say this, it was also important, I think, for Oda to remove other major players from the race before we got this panel. Because if we didn't, then there'll be more faces on this panel, particularly two faces, Law and Kid. Mainly Kid, because Kid was someone that was openly vying for the One Piece treasure along with his rivals, Luffy, and Law didn't necessarily want the treasure, but he wanted more knowledge of what happened during the Void, which in lockstep would mean he'd be focusing on the treasure in some capacity because of the real point of stuff and so on and so forth. But the idea ultimately is that they had poneglyph rubbings, and they were, you could argue easily, one of the best competitors in the race for the One Piece. How many pirates got as far in the Grand Line journey compared to Law and compared to Kid? A very, very scant few pirates have bounties in the 3 billions, one, and then two, had so many poneglyph rubbings and understood a lot about the history of the world of One Piece. But they were removed from the race when Kid got devastated by Shanks and Law and his crew lost to Blackbeard and his boys. This is why it had to happen. That's why when it came to the themes of the story, so many of us knew, we knew immediately that when it came to the trio of rivals, Law, Luffy, and Kid, it would be Law and it would be Kid. They would lose. They would lose to Blackbeard and Shanks, and these two would replace them in the actual race, in the re-race for the treasure, and then Luffy would win. Whatever would happen with Luffy would win. And even though we had Kizaru, and even though we had St. J. Garcia Saturn, and then even though he summoned with some crazy summoning jutsu the other elders, it doesn't matter. Because we knew eventually Luffy would get the W. The world recognized Luffy as being the one to escape this super buster call, potentially the one that took out Dr. Vegapunk, which I've said before in previous videos, but still very important. And obviously the person that is going to have the Giants now kind of teamed up with them, because Dorian Broggie assisted Luffy and company to leave and go to Elbaf, along with, at least you would hope Liv doesn't die unless in the next chapter or two, and then she goes with them on the journey to Elbaf. So you have a Vegapunk secure. Now, the other players among the big four, let's call them the big four, like how you have My Hero, you have the big three, One Piece, the big four. Luffy is pretty obvious. He is the main character, the ties to Joy Boy, the ties to Nika, the connection between him and Goldie Roger, and so on and so forth. It's very obvious that Luffy is going to get his dream. Buggy, a curious case here, because Buggy, he does have the charisma stat and the luck stats that are well beyond 100. If the max is 100, his charisma is 101, and his luck is 301. It's absurd how lucky Buggy gets in the story. But as a result, he's acquired these great assets in Crocodile and Mihawk, in Mr. One, and other, maybe in the future, Doflamingo, people like that. And Buggy is now moving because of Shanks' movements. And we know that Mihawk, that Crocodile, Buggy, and Shanks, these people were at Roger's execution on Log Town a long time ago. So the idea that these guys, Mihawk and Crocodile, at one point in time also want to be king of the pirates. That old spark in them that they lost for X, Y, and Z reasons, Buggy is reigniting within them. A core reason why he is the prime mover for their whole faction. He will probably somehow, some way reach Laugh-Tale Shores. Maybe, for example, he is very, very close to Laugh-Tale Shores, but he's a hair off for whatever reason. Because let's say it could be the case here where Laugh-Tale Shores are sacred land, sacred waters, and truly only the king of the pirates will ever reach there. So there's a chance here that it's only Luffy and his crew that actually set foot on Laugh-Tale. That is possible. But Buggy will get as close to as possible as Oda will let him. But that's for like the endgame of the story. Keep in mind that there is another treasure that Buggy has wanted for some time now, and that is Captain John's treasure. Even though he's aiming for the One Piece at this point in time, Captain John's treasure at some point should be revealed. Buggy should get, let's say, before he gets the One Piece, or it actually ties somehow to the One Piece 2. That'd be maybe too crazy, so I might doubt. But keep in mind that Captain John's treasure should play an importance for the endgame for Buggy's character as well. Blackbeard is someone that we know is going to fail. I wouldn't put, at this point in time, too much stake on the words of Whitebeard about when the war happens. But I will put a lot of stake on his words about Blackbeard failing to be the Pirate King, or the man that Roger isn't waiting for. He is not the person. Even though in this speech, Vegapunk does say that there is no guarantee that the person that finds it, the One Piece, will be the kind of person that Joy Boy wants to find it, which would indicate Blackbeard in some sense. The safe bet here is that he'll ultimately fail. However, that's where the One Piece treasure. When it comes to his other plans, like making his country, full Outlet Island, a world government nation, and then on top of that, when you have something like J. Garcia Saturn in your back pocket via Katarina Devon, those are big boy plays. So those are literal world conquest plays. They're not, oh, well, let me use J. Garcia Saturn's likeness to take control of one island. No. 3 islands, okay, maybe. 5 islands, an entire section of the Grand Line, or North Blue, or South Blue, or East Blue. These are world conquest plays for damn sure. Remember what Von Augur told Saturn right to his face. What do you guys want? We want the world. Blackbeard has that unique heritage that we're gonna find out more about in the future. He has that unique physique, which allows him to have 2 devil fruit powers, and one of them, we all know, can shut down other abilities. Even though Luffy's power is insane absurd, if Blackbeard goes Kurozu, he can shut down a lot of Nika madness. And we've already seen via proxies like Peachbeard, we've already seen him try and take territory outside the New World, even in the Grand Line. Blackbeard matters tremendously because he is another major player for the race of the One Piece. Matter of fact, because of the importance of the One Piece now, first and foremost, there could be a case here where Blackbeard is trying to amass all these resources, even let's say control major parts of the world, and aim for the One Piece with these resources. The reason why Blackbeard would want to be king of the world, essentially, or close to, is because he would want the One Piece treasure. And it'd be easier for him to actually get the treasure when he is the king of the world, quote unquote. Now that may sound ridiculous because, hold on, wait, what? The power of the world to just get a single treasure, but the treasure itself does change the entire world and probably literally actually changes how the world is physically structured in some crazy way. You just can't ignore that. This does tie to the character I get to soon enough, obviously. But before that character, we have the God King, the red hair wonder, Shanks, the chapter 1 dude, the man that ultimately aspired Luffy to be the man that he is today. The right kind of pirate, not the wrong kind of pirate like Kid and Blackbeard, but the right kind of pirate. He will be the primary guardian for the One Piece treasure to make sure that the right person does get the treasure. I did a video over here, check it out, a while ago, talking about Luffy's final fight. There are various options, but one of those options was obviously, in my mind, Shanks. When it came to the themes, they're very important when it comes to Shanks. Even let's say the smaller themes, like for example, his sword, Griffin. In some mythologies, the Griffin stands on top of all mythical beasts. And then they would lay their eggs in gold mines. They would protect these gold mines to protect their young. So the idea would be, in a sense here, Shanks would be the Griffin that guards the treasure. Yes. So even though there's a chance he could be like the primary foe on Elbaf, I would say it's less likely now because, again, Oda's telling us these big 4 dudes are going to be extra important for the One Piece treasure itself, which is like the last 2-3 arcs of the story. And Elbaf is next arc, and I'm willing to bet not even the last 3 arcs of the story. Oh yeah. Another video, another day. Shanks, whether it be on Laugh Tale itself, potentially even finding the One Piece, but in the same way that Roger did, where Roger found it, but he couldn't really utilize it because they were too early. He wasn't the right person. Shanks, maybe in the same vein, finds it, but not the right person. Him and his crew laugh the same way Roger and his boys laugh. The Griffins, they guard it to make sure that the right person who is qualified does get the treasure. So it could go as far as that for Shanks. It could, it really could. Will actually go that far, only time can tell. But keep in mind that, yeah, Achiro Oda, when it comes to every character in this panel, it's red hair Shanks that he wanks off the most. Make no mistake, keep that in mind. Now, there is another character that does get a lot of wank, who is not among the big 4, but still very important, Akainu. Akainu is in this panel because ultimately he is the lead man of the Marines before this massive major paradigm shift in the Marine structure, meaning essentially he is the best-selling game on the last gen console of its last year before the next gen console comes out. Ultimately, Akainu, he will fall short. It is what it is. He's not someone that's going to be dead set to be victorious in the stage that matters the most. The Marines will go through probably some major fracturing, and or the Marines will ultimately fall short to the opposing forces, whether it be pirates or revolutionary army. Yeah. It's not Akainu's fault per se that he was born in these turbulent times of the world itself, but he will be on the wrong side of history come the end of it all. He will fight tooth and nail. Devastation will be wrought via Akainu's hands. When it comes to the One Piece, you're not being the big 4. Nobody is. And the Marines at this point in time are effectively the lapdogs of the world government. That will change, obviously, in the future, but right now they are. And Akainu is the headman of this style of Marine. And these people are not going to be the ones to usher in the kind of global change the world needs to see, so the world can heal from the damage that was done to it from the Void Century and the 800 years after. Now we can cut over to the Rev. I've been a big proponent of the idea of SKA. Sabo kills Akainu. There is a chance where Luffy and Akainu do have altercations. Like, for example, you have a Marine 4 situation where it's headlining the Strap pilots instead of the Whitebeard pirates. Instead of Sengoku, you have Akainu. Possible. I ain't gonna deny it. And then so by those margins, you would think to yourself, okay, well then obviously, clearly, we're gonna have a full-on battle, life and death between Akainu and Luffy. Not necessarily, because in Marine 4, we also saw what? We saw outside forces coming in to assist. Sabo and the Rev could come in there as well. Particularly now that we're seeing Sabo get just as much push as Dragon among the revolutionary army. Like, several kingdoms, as a result of Sabo's actions in the Holy Land, what he is accused of doing, have decided to revolt. Open rebellion. And the Sabo fanfare is everywhere. And we've seen Sabo's head on these huge posters, on these projectors. Sabo. The Flame Emperor is real. And I'm not saying that he's right on Dragon's level. Maybe he is, but he could be a shy, like a hair underneath Dragon right now in terms of his importance to utilize and maximize a lot of revolutionary fervor among the people across the world. Yeah, people are literally revolting against their masters. They're revolting against Candyland because of Sabo. But that doesn't mean that Dragon's out of the picture, because Dragon obviously could be a major player here, particularly when we recall Marine Ford, where during Marine Ford, Akainu was headhunting Luffy, particularly because of his ties, his connections to Monkey D. Dragon. So Dragon being a major player here against Akainu, I think is very, very likely. Will he be the one against Akainu? Possible. It may not be Sabo. It could be Dragon and Akainu, and that's how things play out. But I would say that ultimately, when it comes to Akainu, Dragon and Sabo take more precedence than Luffy does at this point in time. Luffy has literally, I would argue, much bigger things on the plate to deal with. He's got to deal with the other big 4 members. He's got to deal with Buggy, but predominantly Blackbeard and Shanks. That takes far more precedence because the One Piece is literally the most important thing for the planet itself, compared to Akainu and Marines doing whatever to try and stop them, and ultimately, of course, failing. Particularly when, again, the world's gonna see more and more chaos as a result of the words of Vegapunk. The Revolutionary Army will absolutely capitalize on this. I can definitely see a parallel here with Guinea and Bonnie being able to control every pacifista. That is a nasty protocol that the Rev absolutely will love to have in their disposal to try and take down the current establishment, which the Marines, of course, are one of the major shields of that said establishment. It's also going to be important how much these heads of the establishments, Dragon and Akainu, how much they know about the history and the truth of the world. Because during Vegapunk's speech, it was implied that Akainu knew more than most folks did because he was a fleet admiral. Sengoku was the same way too. The fleet admirals, they know something. And Dragon clearly knows about Imu and the Gorosei because of Sabo telling him that, one. But how much does Dragon know outside of that? How much does Dragon really know? These, again, all these things are going to be very, very pivotal in the near future. Even though a lot of people, for I think obvious reasons, and I think fairly so, have had a lot of stake on the elders, the Gorosei, as I've been saying for some time now, even though the elders are better than I thought, and I'll admit that, we can't forget about the Holy Knights. Figureland Garling is in this double page spread. That's super important. That's super important. The Holy Knights Commander-in-Chief, a champion of God Valley, someone that the Celestial Dragons, the quote-unquote gods of the worlds themselves, revere. A person who also doesn't wear the bubble over his head, but instead has the crescent moon theme going on for him and seems to have a lot of energy, has the authority to actually execute celestial dragons, and maybe was someone that scarred Whitebeard during the God Valley incident, allegedly, in theory. Figureland Garling, who likely has a connection to Shanks based on what we saw in Film Red. Film Red isn't a canon movie, but elements of Film Red are clearly, obviously canon. And there was a big thing that was brought up by the Celestial Dragons where the 5 elders were debating if it was actually a good idea to try and take out Uta effectively, even though she had relations to the Figureland family. Shanks' very possible lineage matters a lot to the end game of the story, and I would argue potentially to the creation of the world government itself. The reasons, the details, probably require another video in the future, honestly. But Figureland in of itself does matter a lot, and they could, let's say, been part of those kingdoms that created the world government, along with the Nefertari, let's say the Nirona, like Imu, Saint Imu of Nirona. And so I'm willing to bet here that Garling is fully aware of Imu's existence. Absolutely. This goes triple for the importance of the family if the silhouetted person is also a member of the Ackerman family. If he's also another Figureland member. Let's say he stabs. Oh, penetrate. Whoa, maybe. Who knows? There are options here too, where he could be the man with the burned scar, where he is the one that is protecting the last load poneglyph. I had a stream with Eric and Christian of the Red Forest podcast on their channel, and I think it was Christian. He brought up the idea that this person could be Rox D. Sebek himself. The legend Rox D. Sebek low-key could be the person right underneath Monkey D. Dragon. So that I will for sure have as a video in the future for you guys, because it was a pretty interesting segment going over the possibility of Rox still being alive, active in the story, and Oda actually just showed him in the panel right next to Imu and Akainu. Now, woo, so we'll tackle that. But remember, when it comes to Garling and the Holy Knights, it's Monkey D. Dragon that said the Holy Knights, when they mobilize, that is when the battle for the world really starts. When the Holy Knights move. And then Imu is very obvious. Imu's importance to the story as the head person of the world government and the Marines, effectively the king of the quote-unquote world, has those connections to the Void Century, potentially was from the Void Century, unironically, could be an actual demon. So Imu, its importance, I can't say he or she, right now, its importance to the story is tremendous. There's even takes where what we see with Imu, this silhouette is genuinely Imu. It's not a person in cloak, but it's genuinely a shadow type monster entity. So there are a lot of things about Imu that probably have direct ties to also Joy Boy, as being Joy Boy's adversary, potentially the reason why Joy Boy and that powerful ancient kingdom way back when, they fell to the 20 kings that created the current world government. Imu for sure is a possible final villain for the story. Yes, of course. But I would say now, comfortably, Blackbeard supersedes Imu in that race for final villain in the story. Yeah. Even though folks forget, I can understand why, but I'm saying it again. One Piece is a story about pirates, first and foremost. Every other faction, every other group falls short compared to the pirates. Something that folks need reminding of time and time again is the actual world domination that the world government has. The world government has many nations, like 100+ nations under their belt, but that doesn't mean they have complete global control over the entire planet at large. There are territories within the East Blue, West, North, South, and Grand Line that they don't control, where these folks do not pay their taxes to the world government. And even though it's inconsistent from area to area, there is one universal fact. When it comes to their global control, they do not control the new world. I'll say it again. The world governments do not control the new world. And it's not because Imu, oh, well, Imu just hasn't done anything yet. No. It's because they just can't do it. It's impossible for them to control the new world. The most dangerous, the most chaotic part of their planet where the truly powerful lie. It's the reason why the emperors of the sea have been so comfortable there, to the point where in order for Marines to attack the emperors, they need permission from the higher ups. Blackbeard was literally about to steal a battleship, a Marine battleship, and like 800 prisoners, and the Marines that were there that were not under sword, they couldn't do a damn thing about it. The new world is prima pirate territory, and it's the part of the world that matters the most because it's the part of the world that tells you where to find the One Piece treasure, if not the location somewhere in there of the One Piece treasure itself. And that is an important fact you have to remember, especially when you have all these major new forces pulling up and they're getting stronger and stronger. The Cross Guild is doing bounties and hits on the Marines themselves. The Marines are losing, you could argue, a lot of status via the Kingdom Revolts, though they're gaining staff from things like that. But then after Vegapunk's speech, they may lose a lot more kingdoms under their wing. They've already been acknowledged that when it comes to the Red Air Pirates, no mas. We saw Marine Ford. Whoa, Shanks here? Not back down. War's over. Time out. War's over, done. We saw it in real time. And then Blackbeard and his force have gotten tremendously stronger, particularly with the new enrollment of the 10th Titanic captain, Kuzan. But Kuzan's weird though. Kuzan's kind of weird. I'm not too sure where he lands in the grand scheme of things here. It could be the case here with Kuzan. He does follow through with his betrayal of the BB Pirates, and his betrayal is going to be a key thing on BB's losses in the future. Possible. I feel like we've gone a little bit too far though with Kuzan, where, I mean, we literally saw him have an ice spear on or even through Garp's chest. It's like, dog, what? And then you want to turncoat now? My guess here is that there are going to be certain Marines, whether they be former Marines like Kuzan now, Fujitora in the future, because there's theories about that, where in the future he will defect. Smoker, you could argue, where they're going to be the new faces of the Marines after the world has changed. And the prima face of that will be Kobe. That's why I think Kobe's there. Kobe has ties to Luffy, potentially aim for the One Piece in some weird Marine way, potentially. But the idea ultimately is what Garp said. Kobe is the true future of the Marines. And we already see how many people of the entire story revere Kobe as a person because he is the hero. Just how Garp is revered because he is the hero Garp. And he has that legendary status as a Marine. Kobe has gained a lot of that too. Even though we don't see what happened exactly during Rocky Port, we are aware of the results of it. People across the entire planet love Kobe. After the Marines go through a reconstruction period, and let's say they are no longer bound by the whims of the world government above them, because the Rev and Sabo and Dragon and company, they succeed in taking down the world government structure, and even Marines, hardcore ones like Akainu, they are thrown to the wayside because they ultimately lose, they take the L. And that could be Kuzan's ultimate endgame here, but I'm not too sure. Kuzan, I think, is the weirdest one. Honestly, I'm surprised he's here. I'll be with you. Kuzan, I've been fully committed with the idea that he is, simply put, a Blackbeard pirate member. But when you have Garp on the ground, again, ice spear through or on his I mean, and you want to flake? Like, do you think that the world at large will accept someone like Kuzan, even though he was a former pirate and the one that ultimately fought against Garp on Pirate Island? Man, I don't know. And because of that, I need to see how things play with Kuzan. Let me know your stance on this topic at hand. Again, I plan on doing more videos in the future. I am feeling better, which is good. Very, very good. So on that note, let me know again your stance on this video topic. Be sure to rate the video, comment, subscribe, click on that bell to join the notification squad, and make sure you go over to your phone app for YouTube and click on notifications there and subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna see you guys and gals on the flip side.
See you. Bye bye.